don't care what anybody says. That is the grooviest intro in the world. So thank you so much to all of the producers there. This is our most fun part of the show. T.I.D's Kicking the Head right here on the Law Live Audio Wrestling. As you can see, I am joined this week by not one. It's usually just one, but this is the first time in history on this show, I think, that we've done a tag team spot. I'm not talking about the kind that you hear in the news nowadays. We're talking about old school wrestling with two of the dudes that were there during the WWE heydays. We're talking like, early mid 2000s. We're talking guys who weren't afraid to go out in skirts. I'll say it because we're not in the same room. Fuck you guys. But you know what? Talents that I've known for holy crap since the beginning. I'm talking about the Highlanders. I'm talking about Robbie. I'm talking about his cousin Rory. Guys, how's it going today?
Pretty good.
Fucking awesome. I got scared there for a second, man. You said it was a tag team spot. I'm like, fuck, Robbie's going to blow it.
Hey, well, you know what? My back's a little bigger right now, so I can probably carry it. No.
Nice.
It's tremendous, guys. Thank you so much for joining me here. I don't know if this has been done, certainly not done here. And we usually start right at the very beginning because that's a lot of fun. And then we build it up, it's like a match. This is what we're doing here. Right. And here's the weird and kind of funny thing is all three of us share the same trainer. Right. In Waldo Von Erich.
Yep.
I know how I ended up there. How did you two knuckleheads end up there?
I can go real. I'll go real fast because Rory's story's a little longer. Actually, I was searching for a school because I had seen a couple shows. I believe you were on one of them, Tid, and I'd seen a few. So I had started searching for schools, and because I only lived in Woodstock, Cambridge was real close, and I took the drive up there and met the fat man himself. Triple cheeseburger layer on cheese on each layer, and I knew what he was, and basically I didn't get the shaft that most people got because I only ended up paying I think it was $3,500, and I used the place for more than a year, and I didn't pay any extra insurances and all that, and it was pretty straight. I knew what I was getting. I met Waldo that day, the very first day I was there, but I knew I could just meeting the greasy cheeseburger man. You could see through all his shit where everybody else on the phone, they're not going to get to see who he is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Russ, how about you?
Fuck. I'm going to sound like a real goddamn rube.
No, you're not. Okay, let me preface this then. Let me preface this to everybody who's listening. What we're talking about here when they say greasy cheeseburger man, we're talking about the Hart Brothers School of Wrestling in Cambridge, Ontario. We're talking about a guy who, as I'm throwing up air quotes here, Ike Shaw was his work name for those two matches that he ever fucking had. His real name, you can look it up, figure it out, no big deal. But he had the handle of being able to, man, that dude was smooth on the phone. He could talk from a distance. Whoo! Once you got face to face, you were like, oh, it's this kind of guy. And he was a shyster. Absolutely from day one, trying to get people to invest shares into a company that wasn't even registered anywhere. Right? Trying to get people to live there. And he did a great job because he had the ability to get people on the phone to make you believe that he knew a lot more people than he really did. And he had reach. He was able to advertise on the internet worldwide, right? And draw people in who were there. So go ahead, Rory. Begin.
Yeah, man, he was 2 matches. So the old fucking had 2 matches, but to say he wasn't a worker is crazy. He was one of the best workers I ever fucking met. So I'm scarred. So I had my former career had taken a shit, and I'm back at home, and I'm just I'm fucking hating life. And I get home one day from work, and my buddy's like, I threw my keys down. I said, I'm fucking done. I can't do this anymore, man. I'm soaking wet. I'm freezing fucking cold. You know, my brother left and joined the military. I don't know what the fuck to do. And he's like, oh, yeah, but you're Scottish. What are you going to do? And he was watching Monday Night Raw, and I said, fuck, I'm going to do that. I says, they look fucking happy. You know, I says, those guys look like they're fucking blessed. So, as you said, man, I went on the internet, and what was the first one that fucking popped up? It was good old fucking Hart Brothers Ike Shaw. Call him up, and this guy's like, he's like, kid, I can tell just by listening. You got what it takes. He's like, I can hear the passion in your voice. That's the start. He's like, listen, let me tell you what we got here. We got a fucking premier. They call it studio. We got a premier studio. It's on a lake. We got a couple of boats. We got some Ford Explorers for all the guys. He's like, I'll take care of everything. I'll take care of your visa. I'll take care of your fucking your studio fees. I'll take care of this, that, and the other, and fucking ding me for 16 grand. So did I literally so I told everybody back home, I'm like, hey man, this guy's gonna make me a fucking star. He's like, so I'm willing to invest the money. So I sold my fucking car. And I sold everything I had, like fucking everything, and you know, fucking borrowed money from my mom, and sent this guy the money. And I'm like, fucking right, dude, I got this. So I fly all the way to Canada, and this fucking scraggly ass dude picks me up, and you were there, weren't you? So
I wasn't there to pick you up.
That's right. He was at the school.
Yeah.
So fucking Rory Polfus picks me up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at this guy, and I'm like, he looks like he just ate his fucking lunch off his AC/DC shirt. This guy's a fucking mess. And he takes me to his car, and he's got, I think it was a 1978 blue Cutlass Supreme.
It was definitely a Cutlass.
And I'm like, hey, brother, where's the Explorers, man? He's like, he just looked at me and went, oh, fuck, another one. And I get to the school, and I'm like, he's like, we're here. I'm like, where the fuck's the lake? You know what I mean? Like, where's the fucking houseboats and shit this guy's talking about? Where's the studio? And it was a fucking dollar store. And he's like, no, he's like,
Oh, no, it wasn't the dollar store even. No. Fucking upstairs.
Upstairs. So, dude, the first thing I fucking see, man, he opens the door and we go upstairs. And there was an old guy that looked like he was decomposing, and he was holding his cock. And he was just standing there holding his fucking cock. And he's wearing a
Herbie.
Poor Herb, eh? And this guy's just standing holding his dick. And I'm at halfway up the stairs, and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, you gotta be kidding. And I go upstairs, and the place smells like feet. And it was fucking disastrous, man. It was an absolute fucking nightmare. But that was my first glimpse.
Yep.
In pro wrestling. I go up there, and Wild Thing Juan Ortiz and Lars Phoenix were in the ring, and they're doing stuff, and I'm like, I don't look like TV. You know what I mean?
No, but there's a fine collection of pictures on the wall.
Oh
There
yeah,
was.
I was told. Day one, all over the Gothic night.
Tanning bed, huh?
Yeah, with fucking fluorescent tubes in it.
And one press rack.
One press rack. Yeah, and the stiffest ring in the shortest room ever. Yeah. There was no movement in that ring whatsoever.
No.
And the best part, because you guys then meet, Waldo and everything like that. And when you guys were there, because you were there after I was gone from there, was his back machine still in there? He had this table, the table that you would lay on that would roll the spine.
Spine, but he managed to find a professional model to take pictures of that ring. Isn't that right, Robbie?
Oh man! Wow.
Yeah, fucking old Robbie.
So you guys both end up trained enough to be like, you know what, we're going to like, you're not waiting for anybody's blessing to start working, are you?
You know what? I want to say once we paired up, like I learned what I could from what I could, if you understand.
Yep.
And once Rory came, he was there for about 6 weeks and then hurt his shoulder. But once he came, we worked together and just did stuff together and tried to figure it out ourselves. And basically taught ourselves. Like, it's not like it was the blind leading the blind there, you know. There's been a couple names on this show so far. Nobody knows who they are, you know.
So did 100%. Did you know right away when you met it? Okay, we're going to start like really investing ourselves and our brains right into tag team wrestling.
Pretty much, because I had the idea to do a Scottish character,
and I wasn't allowed to do anything else.
And I was going to do
as soon as you fucking open your gob.
It was like a tribute to my grandfather. And then when Rory came, it was like, well, why? Why not? It just makes sense. And then we went with it.
You know, the thing was, like, we were pretty. I think I was there for a little bit before I met Robbie, and when he showed up, we kind of. I knew what I was looking at. I knew that, you know, my money's fucking gone. So I'm left with two options here, man. Like, I go home, which everybody was expecting. Not one person expected me to stick at it. You know, I go home and I have nothing, and I'm starting from the ground up in a situation that I just fucking left for nothing. Or I went into this 100% and I gave it all. And, you know, Robbie told me, he's like, listen, man, you're not the first person that's been fucking ripped off here. He's like, I've seen a few since I've been here. You know, guys that show up for a week or two and then fucking leave and go back to England or Germany or wherever the fuck they came from. He's like, but there was a natural bond between me, like immediate bond between me and Robbie. You know, I was like, okay, this is a righteous dude. This guy's, he's got a lot of passion. He's got a big personality. You know what I mean? And we just started talking. I mean, it was almost like I'd known this guy for 20 years when I first met him. And he opened up his life to me. He's like, hey, man, if you want to stay in my fucking house, just let me know. I'll see if I can find you a job. I mean, he was beyond gracious. You know what I mean? Like, genuinely beyond gracious. And I was like, okay, so there's a ring. There's a guy that I trust. Let's fucking see where this will take us. You know what I mean? Like, the worst thing that can happen is I go back to where I'm at anyways. And I'm still young. I'm 23 years old. You know, I can still claw and trying to make it. Or I can stay here with this guy, and I vowed to him I'd give him everything I had, and he did the same. I'm like, fuck it, let's see where it goes, man. So we learned enough, just enough to be able to go, okay, we can go in there, man. We know we can fucking bump for anybody. We can do anything. Let's get the fuck out of here as quickly as we can, you know. So that was the end of the beginning, I think, as they say.
And the nice thing was it was at a time where, like, being a gimmick tag team, there wasn't that going on, right?
No.
So it worked out really well, especially like you're breaking in Ontario. The scene was still really hot at the time, right? But you get the fuck out. Yeah. You get the fuck out of Ontario immediately, right? Did you guys, whose idea was it? Did you get a phone call? Tell me the process, how you end up down in OVW.
Whoa, that's a long process, man.
Very long process.
It's tougher for you. It's got to be tougher for you, Rory, because now you've jumped from Scotland to Canada, now trying to get into the States.
You know what? I don't think it was, because I was willing to be a journeyman, you know. Mm-hmm. Robbie, he had a good career and he had a family and everything else. So, you know, it was always going to be how far was he willing to go? Like, how much was he willing to sacrifice? Because I had nothing, man. I didn't have a home. I had absolutely nothing. This guy gave up what most people would consider a very healthy life because of wrestling and myself. So we would, I mean, we Robbie was, aggressive at going after it, sending out tapes and everything else. And I was sending out tapes and doing all that stuff. And I think probably the luckiest thing that happened to us was when we did a show with ACW, and here comes Sweet Stevie Lee, Brian Ireland, Danny Daniels from ECW, and those guys came up and almost immediately took us under their wing, which kind of opened up a little bit of the States to us. But Robbie had also been pressing heading out east. And I don't know exactly how you got hooked up with Mike Spada. You'd be able to.
There's a promoter named Mike Spada in Massachusetts, and we actually went we'd heard about him through a guy named Dave Barry, who was once known as Quincy Valentino.
Yes.
And we could talk about him all day, but we won't.
No, we're trying to keep people listening to the show.
We're worst chop in the business, but anyway. So we hooked up with him, and we weren't getting a lot of opportunities in Ontario, so we were going elsewhere to seek our where we wanted to go, and Quincy took us down to Mike Sparta's I think it was called WWA, and he had always had a lot of stars come through in and out of there. And Danny Davis, the old referee, was there, mm-hmm. and Dr. Tom frequented every couple months. So it just happened to be the right place, the right time, and we met Dr. Tom down in Massachusetts, and then it was the tag team of phone calls for probably a year and a half to bust his balls and get a shot.
We lied our asses off to this guy, man. Like, yeah. He knew who we were. Like, he knew exactly what we were. You know what I mean? Like, he knew I had absolutely nothing. I had no visa or anything else. But Chris Candido was also down there at the time. And Chris, we did this gimmick together. It was, do you remember? It was with
we did a tag match. It was us against Chris Candido and Dangerous Danny Davis.
Yeah,
and,
but then
we went out there. We went out there and impressed Chris and Danny with the ability to just work with them, mm-hmm. and not just a couple spots, a finish, go out and work with them, and then we impressed them enough that of course, Dr. Tom's like, so how are they? And then Chris Candido put us over, and so did Danny Davis, and they liked our in-ring ability, and and then, like I say,
the cool thing with that is, like, Tom never charged us we'd go to all the Dr. Tom seminars, and he'd never charge us a penny. And at this time, he was still the head of talent relations for WWE.
Right.
So this is kind of when we started. This is before Tommy Dreamer. So me and Robbie would just lie our fucking asses off to him. We'd be like, hey, man, we see the show is going to be in Montreal this week. We're in Montreal. Can we get a spot? And he'd be like, are you sure you're in Montreal? We're like, fuck yeah, we're in Montreal, man. And then we'd go to Montreal. Then we'd be like, hey, Tom, see the show's in Kansas City. Hey, man, we're in Kansas City. Just fucking lying our asses off. But he knew. He told me later that he knew we were fucking lying to him, but he also knew we were fucking flat broke. And we were journeymen, you know what I mean?
We would go wherever it took, because we wanted it that much. And if they were going to open the door, we were going to be there.
Yeah, there was no tryouts at that time, you know what I mean? So it was like you would go, you would get your $200, you get your ass whipped, and you'd leave. But we did that for 2 straight years, almost every month or every other month. And then Tommy Dreamer became the head of talent relations. And apparently, for some reason, he said I always used to pop him. And I don't know why, you know what I mean? But he's like, just something about you is fucking weird. You pop me. He's like, I like you and your cousin. And he did the same thing for me and Robbie. He started putting us on there, So, I don't know. It's probably 2 years after that with Robbie, I think, right? And
yeah.
we're like, we can't do this anymore, man. Like, we got to get a job. We got to get a job. So we pulled Johnny Ace aside, and we were like, listen, man, we need a job. But I think we'll be coming here for 2 years now. Fucking, we give you what you want. You always say we do good matches. Like, give us a job. And he looked at both of us and went, no. And he's like, I think he gave us something. Robbie's memory's way better than mine. I think he told us, like, come back in about 3 months, and if you impress,
he gave you the old second quarter.
line.
Come back in the second quarter.
Yeah, big time. He's like, if you impress me, he says, we'll talk about it. He says, but if you don't, then that's it. And I think, where was that? That was the East Coast, wasn't it, Robbie? Was that?
That was, I want to say, so that was it Providence or maybe Syracuse? Yes. Yeah, I think it might have been Syracuse. It might have been Syracuse because we ended up driving the wrong way a little ways.
No, it was Providence because Arian let us fucking sleep in his hotel room that night because we.
That's right. That's right. So basically he said, you guys are doing good. We like what you see, but you're not. We could put kilts on any guys in OVW and call them the Highlanders, and he goes, he looked over at Rory and he goes, I got lots of bald guys here. Look at Kurt, Kurt Angle, same height basically. And he was kind of picking on Rory, and he looked at me, he goes, your partner, he's got a little more height. He's at the time I was a little more jacked, but Rory got much bigger after that. And
Mexican supplements, brother.
And then basically we went home with our tails between our legs, and that's when they said, go away for 3 or 4 months, and that you come back, show us something different, man, or that's it. We're not bringing you in anymore. And
that was my favorite part.
Johnny Ace was always against us anyhow. He didn't want us. He wasn't fans of ours like Vince or Stephanie or the other people. Yeah. And, when he was in the position he was in right beside Vince, but Vince liked us, which was a good thing. Mm-hmm. However, he held us back a lot. But then the Highlanders were born after
why do you think
the Highlanders?
We drove.
I was just going to say, why do you think that is? I've always wondered. Yeah, with Johnny.
I can tell you exactly why it was. I've heard from people backstage, and actually I've heard Pritchard's brother talk about it. At the time, what was seen on TV wasn't me and Robbie. That was a manufactured kind of thing. You know what I mean? They thought we were funny. We were doing sketches in OVW. There were some people backstage, Regal being one of them, that kept making comments as to the sheep herders. He's like, these guys could be the new sheep herders. These guys are fucking vicious. They know how to shoot. They've got a good look. The Celtic Warrior thing. So that was getting brought up a lot, and I think Johnny took a little bit of offense to that. Because obviously him being one of the greatest flag wavers of all fucking time.
Right.
Made him feel that he had solidified his spot in fucking history, and the most famous thing he did was fucking marry the Bella's mom. But that was always something that really irked him. So me and Robbie went back. We go back home, and home, I'm at the fucking gym. And we call each other the next, because I don't think we spoke more than 5 minutes all the way from Providence back to Ontario. And we call each other. I call him the next day. And I'm like, what are we going to do? How are we going to make this look? And Robbie came up. He liked the kind of pugilist look, with the fucking the throw tied around the waist and everything else, the old school pugilist. And I'm like, listen, man, nobody's had a fucking big beard. I can't grow hair. I can't change the fact that Johnny doesn't like I'm bald. I'm like, but what if we grow these huge ass fucking beards? I'm like, nobody's got big beards. You know what I mean? So we then make the ballsy decision that when we go down, it says 3 months later we're heading down, we're going in wearing full fucking gimmick. And I don't think either of us were like, this is a great idea. I remember kind of feeling that this is either going to get us fucking hired or fucking you're blackballed,
Right.
And we go walking in, and Johnny sees us, right? Johnny sees us, and he's like, "What the fuck?" And he literally says, "Stay right here." At this point, this is how I remember it. Robbie's right, my memory's shite. At this point, I remember thinking, "This is when security comes. This is when we have to leave." And he comes back with Vince, and Vince looks at us, and he went, "Did you guys fucking show up wearing that?" And we're like, "Yes, sir." And he just had this like small smile on his face, and he's like, "Do you want to give him a match?" He's like, "I want to see them work." And he walked away, and I remember, I don't know if we were still there, can't remember, but I remember the Hunter came up to us, and he was like, "That is the most shameless fucking self-promotion I have ever seen." He went, "I fucking love it."
And Stephanie came over, and she goes, "This is the best thing I've seen in 20 years.
Yeah. And we were fucking gassed to the tree, dude. Like, I used to sweat chewing gum. I was
Well, you got to remember. I was there the day at a certain show in Ontario, and all of a sudden we've got to run down to the ring because old gas balls here gets too blown up, and then Pat out on the fucking ring apron.
That was in Brantford. That guy kicked me in the fucking head. Flex.
All I know is show stops, and I'm like, shit, somebody's died on the apron.
Do you know what? I don't even remember that match after that, because Flex is like, it was Flex and Spears, wasn't it? And Flex is like, to some guy in the crowd, he's like, "Put your boot up." And he grabbed me, and I just see the guy pull his leg back, and I went, "Oh, fuck." And he kicked me right in the fucking head. I don't remember anything after.
Those are the worst, man.
Oh, dude, it was funny, man. But that night, they put us in with, it was Matt Capitelli, God bless him, and The Miz, right? And me and Robbie had no idea who Matt Capitelli or The Miz were. We just knew they were OVW guys, and they had a job and we didn't, you know? And Robbie's like, "All right, what do you want to do?" I'm like, "Bro, we just got to beat the fuck out of them." Like, legit, I'm like, let's be the stiffest motherfuckers. Like, just put our shit in, don't whiff nothing. The only way not to do that is to just fucking tune them up. Mm-hmm. And I think, dude, Robbie at one point, I remember, smashed the Miz with an uppercut that I thought took his top teeth out. Like, fucking boff. And I just see the head fly back, and I'm like, "Oh, we were having a blast." And we get backstage, and we still had no idea what was going to happen. You know, they sent us home, right?
Well, we got sent. Well, we didn't get sent home. We went. They basically said, "We'll see you tomorrow night," and we went on the next night.
And kicked the shit out of them again.
Yeah.
Amazing. But it got you a job.
It sure did.
Right? It got you a job, and now you're in the system, and you're thinking to yourself, "Holy shit, this is it. I'm a rock star." Mm-hmm. Right?
Pretty much. Well,
so at what point did you realize that this isn't the land of Oz? When did the curtain fly back for you?
It's pretty quick for me.
Yeah.
Robbie, you can lead with this one. I know how I feel. You know my feelings on it, man.
Well, so no, you can, Rory. Please share.
So
my situation's a little different than you, and I know where you stand, and I think that needs to be said. And then there's my side of the story where I became a fucking party animal.
So,
well, let's start with Russ. Let's start with yours, and then we'll get.
So we get in there, man, and first thing out the gate, we're getting paid 4 times more than anybody else. When we struck our deal, they had us with a good deal, and they were getting like $350. We were getting like nearly 15, right? And I think that was something that, not by any of the workers, by any of the stretch of imagination, because that's still guys I love to this day, the same way I love all you guys, you and fucking Flex and fuck everybody out there, man.
The brotherhood, basically.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, you guys got us in, you guys educated us, and then so that the next step was there. And I loved all those guys because they're trying to educate us to a business that is nothing like I've ever seen before. And at that point, it wasn't like today where it's very business-like. And I've heard from backstage, like, people back there that are saying that Rory is so different, man. Like, there's no paranoia, there's nobody stabbing in the fucking back. It's just a business. But we go down there, and the first person we had to deal with was Heyman. And Heyman had his favorites, and he had those that he didn't even have to really know to not want to give any fucking time for it all. Like, he would start writing the show, and Brent Albright, Punk, they'd all be sitting there beside him writing it, and then he was pandering to the guys like Johnny Jeter, who's one of my best friends, but he was, he'd come up through the system in OVW, he was the champ, and he had his guys, and that was his guys. Everybody else, you would fill a spot or you would fuck off, So he started doing this thing where, because me and Robbie were hungry, you know what I mean? Like, fucking, hey man, we didn't we didn't spend some money to go to OVW and build a career. We fucking slept in a car when it was fucking 40 below or fucking, 40 above. We've lived the goddamn life. We've traveled all over the fucking country, all over 2 countries, to learn our craft, work with older guys, be journeymen. And he's like, he didn't give a fuck, didn't care. So what he used to do to us was, like, on Wednesday, the day of the show when he would film, he would have me and Robbie put on full gimmick and go to fucking Walmart and hand out flyers.
What?
Shit. Straight shit. Because I would always be in his ear like, hey man, you got a spot for us? And Robbie was like, hey man, you got a spot for us? We wanted to fucking work. We wanted to do what we did. Now when we got there, we did have one really bad match for the Heartbreakers, but that aside, we're just trying to move forward, man, because our reputation had been solidified. All the guys, when we got there, knew who we were, they knew what we did. Some of them were even fucking scared to work with us. But I thought, this is something we can build upon, and he didn't think so, and he would just try to humiliate us and stuff. So what he did was, he would give us little backstage things where he would basically give us carte blanche, because he didn't give a fuck. It was popcorn to him, And he's like, hey man, we've got 3 minutes to go to fill. Rory, Robbie, just go ahead. And we would start doing the most, just to pop ourselves, the most outlandish shit, Like, there was one time where fucking CM Punk everybody's, Ken Anderson looking for CM Punk, and fucking, he comes into the locker room and he's like, did anybody see anything? And I'm like, we saw the whole thing. There was a Punk to the right, a Punk to the left, and we're just popping ourselves. Me and Robbie are just doing dumb shit.
And of course, I just get to follow whatever Rory does.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, though. I had the vocals, he had the fucking animation.
Right.
He's fucking like a wild man ready to fucking bite. And we did this 2-minute fucking spiel, and he goes, so have you seen him? And we both went, oh yeah, of course, he's right over there. After doing this fucking huge fucking land of your sketch. And fucking, here was the gimmick with that. That's what fucking creative saw. And they were like, oh my God, these guys are fucking hilarious. That's who they're going to be. And I'm immediately like, all right, so number one, this guy that's supposed to be the head of the fucking show doesn't want nothing to do with us. Number two, now we're a comedy gimmick. And I'm like, shit.
So now we've basically, the writers like what they see. The writer, Vince, likes what he sees for now. And then that's what they want from us starting on television.
Yeah. So they threw the fucking back, they threw the wallet at us. Whatever you fucking need, get these guys over. So that's when the promos came. Dude, and they were putting us, even before the promos came, they were putting us with people to work. I think the first one was down in Hidalgo, Texas. And they were putting us with anybody. And dude, we were getting fucking crazy fucking pops. Like Hunter was coming up to me and he's like, "Man, you guys got it." Arn is like, "Man, you're." Arn's words, and this is the greatest thing anybody ever said to me in my career. Arn said that me and Robbie were the last of the old school journeyman tag teams. He's like, "There's nobody like you anymore." He's like, and that meant a lot to me. But there's only so far you can go with that fucking glass ceiling as a comedy gimmick, and we knew that. We fucking knew that because Vince pulled us into his office when the promos were going, and he's like, "How do you guys feel about the promos?" And I'm like, "I think they're fucking horrible." I wasn't happy, and Steph knew that too. The only person that seemed to be enjoying it was Johnny Ace because I think it gave him a window to fucking control us a little bit more. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And I guess maybe if that's the case and the sentiment going around and the feelings from you guys is that Johnny Ace is almost like he's keeping his thumb on you. And if he keeps you guys looking like a comedy gimmick, right, then there's no chance whatsoever that whole sheep herders thing can ever come to fruition.
Exactly.
Right?
At this point, Ted, I just wanted to go back to the Indies. I wanted to go home.
Wow.
I really did, man. I was like, you know what, man? I might have been broke, but I was working with people I liked. Nobody was trying to fucking shaft me, and I had a little bit of creative control. And at that point, I mean, very early on, I was like, this, I'm not happy here, man.
Robbie, how was it for you?
Basically, I didn't know exactly how Rory always felt, and he never, we've talked about it a little over the last couple of years, and this is the first time I think he's probably mentioned it on a podcast,
First time.
maybe. And I didn't know where he was, and he really didn't know where I was because I was so drawn into, here we are, this is great. No one really taught us the business per se.
Right.
The bit like we taught ourselves to wrestle. We worked with some guys that taught us to wrestle, but we didn't learn the business.
You didn't have mentors. You didn't have mentors that were like, okay, at this point in the career, you're going to hit this. And at this point in your career, you're going to hit this. You were just thrown to the wolves and being like, okay, Lost Boys, make it work. Right.
Yeah. We didn't have the people. We weren't in anybody's back pocket to guide us through to make us work. And, but I was so, by that time, I never realized it until later in my life, but I loved to party. And I like to drink and party and carry on. And, when Rory's feeling like this, he's not wanting to stop me from partying. He's feeling a totally different way. So why does he want to add my problems into his and vice versa? And
I didn't see them as problems, Robbie. That was the thing. I'm like, hey man, my cousin's enjoying himself. Who the fuck am I to rain on this? Who the fuck am I to rain on this parade? You know what I mean? So I'll do everything I can to try and fucking make sure that he's happy. And at that point, I didn't really give a fuck. I'm like, all right, if Robbie's, because I thought you were going out and you were fucking getting hammed and everything. I'm like, all right, he's having a party. This is what we got to do. If I can keep this going, then we're fine.
I know, like I like to party all the time, and I didn't take it so seriously once I got there. We always showed up. We were always there. They could rely on us. We could be in the ring working for them, but not as serious. And with the things on the early on, when the writers start losing fans, and the other thing too, Crime Time was right behind us, and Vince got a big boner for that. So it's a big timing issue. And like I say, I like to party, and then we can fast forward through, and then.
Realistically though, we were told pretty early on, like, you'll never be top guys, but your in-ring skills are so solid, we're going to use you to make people. Like, they used this to help make the Miz. You know what I mean?
Somebody specifically said these words to you?
Yeah, I was told that by what's that fucker's name? Ed Koski.
Okay.
The writer guy.
Guy. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, he says, you guys will never be top guys. He's like, but we can put you anywhere with anybody, and you can have a solid match. So at that point, this is when me and Robbie started doing Raw, ECW, and SmackDown. We were doing all 3 shows, and we were doing overseas tours. I mean, everybody was like, I'm sure there was some envy because we were working fucking pretty much as a top guy was working.
Sure.
And everybody thought we must have been fucking happy as shit. I wasn't, you know what I mean? Because I didn't want to be a top guy, but I wanted to be a top tag team. You know what I mean? I think we'd earned that respect. We'd put in enough time. We'd done enough that shouldn't have been too much to ask for. But like Robbie said, we were the shiny toy for, a few months.
Now, inside of those few months, you get to hang out with Roddy Piper, though.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Who pitched that to who? Did they come to you with it? Or were you guys like, hey, fuck, this would be great?
We showed up. It was Madison Square Garden on September 11th. I don't know if you remember that, Robbie.
Yeah, I was pretty hungover that day.
It was this night right here, man. Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
And we show up, and they were still giving us a push at that time, big push. And they'd asked Roddy to come in, and he was all about it. He thought it was fucking great. Because at this point, and this is something that's not very well known, I was the very first person from my country to sign with WWE.
Really?
I take a lot of pride in that. Yeah, I was the very first person. Drew has tried to claim that a couple of times, but that motherfucker was still back in Scotland when we were on fucking TV, so he could talk from my ass. Love the guy.
True. That is the truth.
Respect his career, man, but he can go suck a dick. That's not fucking accurate. Never has been, never will be. It's one thing in the record books, it won't change. But they asked him to come in, and they're like, okay, we're going to do this whole thing, this whole slap fight thing. It was mostly between Robbie and Roddy. But for me, the proudest moment of that was the fact that they played us to the ring on 9/11. The New York Fire Department pipe and drums played us to the ring. And dude, I was overwhelmed, man. The whole situation was fucking crazy. You know what I mean?
Could you imagine being in Madison Square Garden with Roddy Piper in the middle of the ring?
It's amazing, dude.
Brother, I don't care where I am. If I could be sitting in my own bathroom, if I hear a set of bagpipes start playing like Amazing Grace, I lose my shit. You can't not, right? There's just something that it pulls inside of you right out, right?
Oh, man, it's warrior music, man. It's supposed to inspire you to go get fucking murdered, but it was absolutely amazing, man. And then it wasn't, I don't think it was that long after that. I think it was just a matter of weeks that we ended up back in Scotland. And it was me, Robbie, Roddy Piper, and Ric Flair versus the Spirit Squad. And this is my first time back home in 7 years.
Right.
It was, whoa, man. I think those pictures are still on .com, actually.
And see, these are always the good times that you can never take away, right? The WWE was very good for doing that for you, right?
Yes.
There's no doubt about that.
Yes, it was a gift.
But clearly there was issues. Did you feel like, because at this point, like when the shine is off, the luster is gone, and you're like, oh, this is so fucking aggravating. Did you feel like at that point though, because Robbie the hippie over here is just fucking happy-go-lucky, right? But you're like, you came into this with like a focus. This is almost with blinders on, if I need to say, right? But did you ever at some point at that point just be like, fuck it, I don't want to do it? Did you feel like you were becoming difficult to work with for them, or were you doing it on your own? You know what I mean? Like, what was the temperature like after that, right?
No, I mean, they would continue using us, and me and Robbie were nothing but polite and professional, man. Even in moments where we probably shouldn't have been, to be perfectly honest.
Absolutely.
There's times where we should have ripped somebody's fucking arm off, but we had always been taught show respect. It's a business built on respect, which feeds back to the point where Robbie's saying we didn't know the business enough to be like, okay, it's fucking go time. This guy's got to get a fucking smack in the mouth. but the writers themselves always knew they had a solid go-to. There was, you know, and that was something that Robbie and I were always prepared to give them. It was something that whenever we went out into the ring, we made sure we got a reaction, you know, and we always did get a reaction. But, you know, the temperature was changing for us, not them.
Okay.
And at that point, you know, I had just, you know, I didn't have a home. I didn't have anything. So I've got to build an entire life now.
Right.
My girlfriend had just got pregnant. So I was changing, you know, and everything away from wrestling was changing. I know Robbie was having some issues back at home. And I think if they had just gave us the time to rectify that, you know, gave us, hey man, we're going to give you a couple of months off.
Right.
It could have placated into Rob. Maybe, I don't know, into Robbie's situation, it would have placated into mine. It would have made it so, you know, I wasn't feeling stressed when I was away from home. You know?
So here was my question, because we know what everybody knows the story in the end of it, because, you know, anybody who's seeing this now on YouTube, thank you so much for joining us here on The Law. You're recognizing Robbie McAllister, this look here a little bit more because you saw it for 11 seconds on TNA television after, you know, Jeff Jarrett was like, hey, this will be a funny idea against the competition. Right. Yeah. I mean, he knew what he was doing. You guys get phone calls from Johnny Ace afterwards, and they're looking for ratings. There's no argument there. That was the thing. 100%.
Absolutely.
Here's my question though. And they knew what the outcome was going to be. How come they didn't offer you a job? Because that would have been even bigger ratings for them to have you come out on their TV.
I never asked.
Well, Rory never asked, but at the same time, we didn't get let go until down the road. So I believe that because we were off television, there was no fizzle. We were doing the job before all this happened. We were putting everybody over. And we also had 6 months between the incident and being let go. So there would be no steam from the Highlanders going forward. But I did end up in Nashville one day, and the door was locked. The doors are usually locked in Nashville, and I just happened to grab them both and opened them up. And the lady was in there, and I said I'd like to see Terry Taylor, and she went in there and told him who it was. And he goes, "What? He's here in the office?" And he gave me the big old horse shit line, and oh, we'll see what you do, blah blah blah. And then I tried to call him. I don't think he's ever been a fan of mine either. So
No.
Rory was doing his family thing, and I still wanted to wrestle, and I continued to wrestle for quite some time all over.
Right.
But yeah, they should have offered us a job.
Yeah.
I think, this. So after hearing from Bruce Pritchard and those guys, it didn't bother Vince as much as I thought it did. It didn't bother Stephanie, and it didn't bother Hunter as much as I was believing it was. Because I've said to Robbie before, man, there was just something in me that knew he was going to go to that show. We were given the whole big speech, fucking that bullshit brass ring speech that Vince gives all the time in Mania. And he's like, we're in Orlando, and I don't want anybody going to that show. And there's just, I'm there because I had surgery. I had full fucking shoulder surgery and chest surgery. And I'm there with my kid who's 6 weeks old. And I'm in the hotel when Johnny calls. And he's losing his fucking mind. He's like, you know what the fuck's going on? And in the back of my head, I'm like, oh man, he didn't. he's like, fucking, your cousin was just fucking on TNA TV. And dude, I didn't mean it. I went, and I started fucking laughing. Like, because I didn't know what else. I'm like, oh my God, he fucking did it.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is unbelievable, man. He's fucking wild. And I just started laughing. And after I hung up the phone, I looked at Gina and I went, hey man, I'm probably going to get a job at Whataburger. So I go downstairs and I go into the fucking bar. Everybody's there. And I walk in and a hush fills the fucking room. Hush fills the room. And I started like going out and I'm talking to people. And the only person, and Robbie would know this better than me because I left before he got there. The only person that really seemed pissed about it was Fit. Because I've heard people saying that fucking, Undertaker was livid. I didn't get that from him at all. He didn't seem livid. He's, you know what I mean? Or at least he didn't say anything to me. And normally if you're part of a tag team, they're like, you're fucking good. You know, you take the heat. But nobody seemed that pissed apart from Fit. Fit was fucking livid, and so was Johnny. And I think maybe Johnny fired Fit up because I later come to hear that it wasn't Vince that wanted us to go. Like apparently Steph and Hunter were like, "No, we can still use them, man. It's all good. Like, you know, nobody cares. Nobody watches TNA," which is not true. But the people that do watch TNA, obviously Robbie was the #1 numbers guy for about fucking 10 years because his fucking YouTube videos of that fucking 11 seconds per second, that is the most viewed fucking TNA gimmick ever online. And I told him he should be selling fucking t-shirts at indie shows for that.
Bro, if this was on the indies, you'd have a belt. Fuck, you'd be the champ. You'd be the fucking champ.
Yeah, but I heard the whole thing was just, again, it came back to fucking Ace. Johnny.
So if this is the situation, you walk into the hotel and everybody's still hanging out at the bar, like that's where we do it. How come if the workers have such a thing about it, how come they didn't have to go to court? How come there was no wrestler court brought up on this entire fucking thing?
Well, I walked in and faced the music because I knew what I did. And I just walked into the bar because I knew everyone would be there. And Fit came right up and got in my face. And Undertaker came over and kind of pulled him back. And I'm like, I just kind of said, whatever. You'd say, I'm sorry I did what I did, but, you know, it is what it is.
Sure.
I'm at it when at that point, after not kind of being where we needed to be, and after just like Rory just got injured a couple, you know, before that, in that very match, I think I was pinned by the midget. And a few weeks before that, I was pinned by the midget when we worked Mick Foley. So it not a very good feeling to just, you know, I'm a happy-go-lucky guy, but I got to the point I don't want to be the fucking piece of shit that's always getting picked on, and that's what a lot of the WWE was back then. I find it's like you know, stories of you know, the bully in grade 6. You know what I mean? They make fun of you. They do it, and you know it's going to reflect on your life and in your mental capacities. You know?
Yeah. I listen. There's the environment has changed drastically, right? And sometimes we find that there's just situations where you're, you know, 10 years the opposite side, either this way or that way of things. You know what I mean? I firmly believe that had I existed where I was in wrestling in those early 2000s, where I was in my life, if this was like the mid 80s, I'd probably be dead right now, but you know, I would have been a rock star because that was me. That was my style. That was where I was. Same kind of thing. Like, because the world of wrestling was in this weird transition stage too, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look at what happened after we left.
Right.
You know, not to say that we own the fucking business, but look at what happened after we left. Every motherfucker looks like the Highlanders, man.
Bro, it is. Well, listen, the big beard has become the long hair. Right? Because everybody was blonde streaks and long hair, you know, and whipped back and on every shot. And then that all fucking turned into, you know, bald heads and goatees for a bit, but then that turned into bald heads and big beards.
Dude, there was the Wyatts not that long after us, which, by the way, fucking that was Robbie's idea. No disrespect to anybody that was in that fucking faction, but Robbie set the tone for that. Then after that, everybody had fucking beards. Because we would go to bars and stuff all over the fucking country, and people would be like, man, gnarly beards. And then you go to the same town, fucking, 6 months later, and everybody's got a fucking beard. I'm like, man, we started this whole fucking big beard revolution, but I mean, how many people and teams have been in WWE now where Robbie and me are still brought up saying that these guys are stealing the gimmick?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's been nearly 15, 18 years, and it still keeps us fucking not, I wouldn't say relevant, but it keeps us in the conversation. You know what I mean? Because there was nothing before. I mean, shit. Everybody had the little pencil goatees, and, like you said, the long hair and shit.
Yeah.
So we brought something different, and we left a stamp on the business. Fuck them.
There's certain things that nobody can ever take away from you guys, man.
Absolutely.
And that's an absolute fact of the matter. I do have a question because you were around at that time. How shitty was the wellness policy?
I fucking pissed. I don't know about Robbie, but you could obviously tell while I was there, I was no longer on the gas. Fucking dude, I get fucking piss tested on 2 separate shows. It felt like for fucking 3 or 4 months. I'm like, I'm pissing for everybody. So I don't think it was that great, man. I
was wondering if they have one today, but I don't think it was that great because I want to say that there was one dressing room for the younger talent, the mid-carders, the OVW guys to piss in, and then there was, hey, come for a walk with me to somewhere else for some other people.
Yeah, well, this guy pisses for you.
And because some of those people that were nice to me, and if I was to talk to them today, I'd consider them friendly. I wouldn't even bury them.
Yeah. No. Listen, we have a rule around here. You're only allowed to bury them if they're already dead.
Yeah.
Right. Me and Robbie have got some fucking stellar stories we'd have to tell you in person.
Absolutely.
We've never made them public and never will, you know what I mean?
Listen, well, and this is the thing. It's like we talk and we tell stories around here, and I appreciate you guys being so forward and honest today throughout all of this. But as well as I do that there's just certain things that us as wrestlers will always take to our graves.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure.
Right? And those are the good stories, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And you only get that if you live the life.
I lived a life for a while.
Even
and believe it or not, my ex-wife knows. She popped the question one time, and I said, "You really want to know this?" And I said, "Whatever you think, just believe." And then she started asking me, "Was it this girl? Was it this girl?" I said, "No. You just got to get the confirmation. You don't get the stories."
Yeah.
Yeah. There's an unwritten rule. Like, listen, me and my wife have been together for going on, 24 years now. And I was already married, or I was already married to the business, I should say, before her and I got together. And there's a very, 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 very good rule. Don't ask me any questions you're not going to like the answer to.
Right. No shit.
Right.
Let sleeping dogs lie, man. Let sleeping dogs lie.
So everybody's good and happy. You guys are doing well. Life is good. You look great. Right?
Absolutely.
That's awesome, man. All right, guys, I want to thank you so much. We're going to wrap this whole thing up. I want to thank you guys so much for stopping by. If people want to get a hold of you guys, Rory, how can they stalk you?
Facebook. I don't really do that much fucking social media, to be honest with you.
Well, then you know what? We're going to have to get you back on here on a regular basis.
All right, I do that, man. We get more to talk about.
Absolutely, we do.
Yeah, just Rory Murray on Facebook. You can go to. We haven't filmed in a while, but the Wood Podcast, WUD Podcast. We'll be starting that back up here again soon. So.
Tremendous.
And you could catch me at maybe a local East Coast wrestling show. And if anyone wants to get a hold of me, they can get a hold of me at Highlander Robbie on Instagram or my stupid name of Derek Robbie McAllister Couch on Facebook.
Amazing. Guys, thank you so much. And for those of you, stick right there. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to be right back, and we'll wrap this whole thing up. This has been TID's Kick in the Head on the Law Live Audio Wrestling. We'll be right back.